Welcome back to the Deep Dive, where we take the fundamental blueprints of biochemistry, distill them down, and give you the knowledge you need fast. Today, we're peeling back the curtain on one of the most critical processes powering all complex life, biologic oxidation.
hmm
It sounds technical, but this is the cellular mechanism that takes the food you eat and the air you breathe and turns it into pure energy, all while detoxifying your system. And our guide today is Chapter 12 of Harper's Illustrated Biochemistry.
And this dive is, well, it's absolutely mandatory because the implications are just enormous. Forget the textbook definitions for a second. The very existence of complex organisms, especially animals like us, is entirely dependent on this.
Right.
We rely on oxygen for what we call respiration, which is really just a highly controlled reaction. You're reacting hydrogen with oxygen to form water. Do it right, and you get ATP.
So we're talking about redox reactions.
Yeah.
Oxidation is losing electrons, reduction is gaining them. It's this constant electron transfer dance. Yeah.
Exactly, a zero-sum game. But it goes so far beyond just making energy. Biologic oxidation is also your internal defense and cleanup crew. Specialized enzymes called oxygenases. They strategically stick oxygen onto other molecules.
Why would they do that?
Well, that's how your body gets rid of xenobiotics. Foreign stuff like drugs, pollutants, things like that. It happens mostly through the cytochrome P450 system. So you've got these reactions driving your energy economy and your detoxification budget at the same time.
Okay, let's unpack that. If electrons are always moving, how does a cell know which way they're supposed to flow? And maybe more importantly, how much energy do we get out of that flow? It
Yeah.
feels like we need some kind of a power meter for electrons.
That is a perfect analogy. And we have one. It's a concept called the oxidation reduction potential, or redox potential, which we quantify as E dollars.
$Z.
The free energy that's released, the delta G dollars lifestyle, is directly proportional to the tendency of molecules to either donate or accept those electrons. So E dollars is, just like you said, our electron power meter.
So it's basically the delta G for redox reactions. It predicts the output.
Precisely. But here's the crucial biological detail. In chemistry, the standard potential is measured at pH 0. For us, in biochemistry, we have to express E dollars at pH 7.
Because that's where life actually happens.
Exactly. At pH 7, the reference hydrogen electrode has a potential of minus 0.42 volts. We have to normalize everything to the body's actual conditions, otherwise the numbers are useless.
That makes total sense. We need biological reality, not just theory. And that gives it predictive power then.
It's the cell's electron GPS. Electrons will always flow spontaneously from a system with a more negative potential to one with a more positive potential.
Okay, give me an example.
Look at the range. Something like text NAD plus text NADH1, an early carrier, sits at a negative potential, minus 0.32 volts. But oxygen and water, the final destination, that's at a very positive plus 0.82 volts.
Whoa, that's a huge drop.
It's a massive gradient, and that's what drives the huge controlled energy release in the mitochondrial respiratory chain.
But that flow needs some expert routing. Which brings us to the four big workhorses of all this, the oxidoreductases. Oxidases, dehydrogenases, hydroperoxidase, and oxygenases. Let's start with the oxidases.
Okay, oxidases. Their job is singular. They use molecular oxygen, text O22, as the final hydrogen acceptor. They pull hydrogen off something and produce either clean water, text O22, or, something less ideal, hydrogen peroxide, text O22.
And the star of this group, the grand finale of the whole process, has to be cytochrome oxidase.
The heavyweight champion, for sure. It is the terminal component of the respiratory chain. It's the very last step. It hands the electrons directly to oxygen to make water.
And its clinical significance is huge because it's a target for some really nasty poisons.
Oh, yeah. If you shut this one enzyme down, you shut down life. Instantly. Cellular respiration stops. That's how carbon monoxide, cyanide, and hydrogen sulfide poisoning works. They all block cytochrome oxidase.
So what makes it work?
It's a hemoprotein. It uses 2 hemes and 2 copper atoms, and the iron atoms in those hemes just flip back and forth, text Fe3 plus dollars passing the electrons along until they finally hit oxygen.
So while cytochrome oxidase makes clean water, you said some oxidases make hydrogen peroxide. That sounds like a problem.
It is a problem to be managed. Those are the flavor protein oxidases. They use text FMN or text FAD, which come from riboflavin. The best example here is xanthine oxidase, which is critical for turning purine bases into uric acid. It just happens to produce text OTT and T2D as a byproduct.
Okay, moving on to the dehydrogenases. You call them the cell's shuttle system. What are their two big roles?
Right. So their first job is really flexible. They do this reversible transfer of hydrogen between different molecules. That reversibility is key for things like glycolysis to work when oxygen is low.
In the second job.
The second job is more direct. They just transfer electrons along the respiratory chain, moving them toward oxygen.
And the tools they use for this, their coenzymes, text NAD plus dollars and text NADP plus, they almost dictate the job description. You described it as separate budgets.
That's a great way to put it. The text NAD-linked enzymes, like in the citric acid cycle, they're mostly oxidative. That's the cell's earning budget. They make text NADH, which gets cashed in for ATP. They're very efficient shuttles.
So text NAD plus dollars is all about catabolism, breaking things down for energy. What about text NAD plus dollar?
The hex NADP plus is the opposite. That's the cell's spending budget. The enzymes that use it are mostly reductive. They're used for building things and anabolism. Think fatty acid synthesis, steroid synthesis. It's a very clear functional separation.
We also have the ones linked to riboflavin again.
Yes, the riboflavin-linked dehydrogenases. They use text FMS and text FAD, but unlike text NAD plus DIA, these are usually bound really tightly to their enzymes. They're mostly involved in funneling electrons into the respiratory chain itself.
And before we move on to defense, we have to touch on the cytochromes again. We mentioned cytochrome oxidase, but the others are dehydrogenases.
Exactly. Excluding that final oxidase, all the other cytochromes are just electron carriers. They function as dehydrogenases, moving electrons from the flavor proteins down the line to cytochrome oxidase.
Okay, this all raises the big question. What's the cost of doing business with oxygen? You get all this energy, but what are the toxic byproducts and how does the cell fight back?
The cost is the constant generation of reactive oxygen species, or ROS. These are highly unstable, very reactive molecules. They cause damage that can lead to cancer, heart disease, aging. It's a real problem. So the cell needs an ironclad defense. That's the job of the hydroperoxidases.
So first line of defense against hydrogen peroxide, text O22.
That would be the peroxidases. The major player here is glutathione peroxidase. And what's fascinating is that this enzyme needs selenium to work. It's fantastic at destroying not just text-O22, but also lipid hydroperoxides, which protects cell membranes from getting damaged.
And then there's catalase, which has this unique way of getting rid of text O22.
Catalase is unbelievably efficient. It's a hemoprotein, and its trick is that it can use one molecule of text-O2 to attack a second molecule of text-2, text-O22.
So it uses the peroxide against itself.
Yes. The net reaction is just hydrogen peroxide breaking down into harmless water and oxygen. It's one of the fastest enzyme reactions known.
And I'm guessing its location is no accident.
Not at all. Catalase is found packed into peroxisomes, which are the same compartments where a lot of the oxidases that produce the text-O22 are. So the toxic byproduct is neutralized on site immediately.
Okay, but we have to talk about the most dangerous ROS, the superoxide anion, text O22. What makes that one so scary?
Superoxide is formed when oxygen gains just a single electron. That makes it a true free radical, and it can kick off these devastating chain reactions throughout the cell. It's really, really damaging.
So you need a specialist just for this one radical. That must be superoxide dismutate, or SOD.
SOD. Found in every single aerobic organism, which tells you just how fundamental this threat is. SOD's job is to take superoxide and convert it into oxygen and hydrogen peroxide.
Wait a minute. You're trading a really dangerous radical, text O2 or T, another toxic molecule, text O22. Is that really a net win?
Oh, it's a massive win, absolutely. Because you're trading a hyperreactive radical that starts chain reactions for a stable, manageable molecule that the cell already has high-speed machinery to handle, namely catalase and glutathione peroxidase. SOD is the first crucial step in the cleanup.
That brings the whole defense system into focus. Okay, let's hit the last big class. The oxygenases, the incorporation specialists. What's their main function?
Oxygenases do exactly what their name implies. They catalyze the direct transfer and incorporation of oxygen into a substrate molecule. The main difference is just how many oxygen atoms they use.
Let's start with the dioxygenases.
Dioxygenases incorporate both atoms from a text-O2 molecule right into the substrate. The reaction is pretty straightforward. 8O plus 2O2 gives you AO22. They're often used to break open aromatic rings.
And then the much more complex group, the monoxygenases.
Right. They're more complex because they only incorporate one of the oxygen atoms. The other oxygen atom gets reduced to water. And to do that, they need an extra electron donor.
Which is why they're also called mixed function oxidases.
Exactly. The overall reaction is basically adding an NOH group, a hydroxyl group, to the substrate. This hydroxylation is often the first critical step in making something much more water soluble so you can excrete it.
And this leads us right back to a critical family we mentioned at the start, the cytochromes P450.
The P450 system is just huge. It's a superfamily, over 50 different enzymes in humans. You find them mostly in the liver and intestine, but also in mitochondria of tissues that make steroids.
So this is where the clock starts ticking on pretty much everything we consume.
It is. Liver P450 systems handle about 75% of all drug modification. When you take a medicine, how long it works, 3 hours, 6 hours, is determined by how fast your CYP450 enzymes can grab it, hydroxylate it, and get it ready for removal.
It's amazing that one family of enzymes is so central to all of clinical pharmacology.
And it's adaptable. The synthesis of these enzymes can be induced by drugs. Take something like phenobarbital, and your body starts churning out more P450 enzymes. That means you'll metabolize that drug and maybe a lot of others much faster.
But it's not just about getting rid of external compounds, right? It's also
No.
fundamental to our own internal systems.
Absolutely. The mitochondrial P450 systems are vital. They're in the adrenal cortex, testes, ovaries. They perform the essential hydroxylation steps needed to synthesize all of our steroid hormones from cholesterol.
So they're managing both external poisons and internal messengers. And the power source for this is what we talked about earlier, the cell's reductive budget.
That's right. The whole hydroxylase cycle is powered by NADPH. From those NADP-linked enzymes we call the spending budget. It provides the electrons needed to make the whole system work. It's the final payoff. So we've really covered the whole system. We dove into how energy transfer is controlled with e-allers, how it's generated by oxidases and dehydrogenases, how the cell defends itself in hydroperoxidases and SOD, and how it handles, well, everything else with the oxygenases and P450s. They're all interconnected.
So what does this all mean for the bigger picture? I mean, the difference between a healthy cell making tons of energy and a poison cell really just comes down to the balance of these four enzyme families. They all have to be working in sync.
Mm.
And here's a thought to leave you with. We learned that a lot of drugs can induce CYP450 synthesis, right? They ramp up your internal detoxification factory. So if you consider that P450 handles both the drugs you take and the synthesis of your own critical hormones, what are the broader consequences when those detoxification pathways are constantly being sped up? What happens to your own hormone balance when your drug metabolism goes into overdrive? That's the powerful cascading ripple effect of biologic oxidation to mull over. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into the engine room of cellular life. We'll see you next time.